SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Hello friends. Today we are going to talk about Kamala Das's short story, The Tattered Blanket. As we proceed with the lecture, I would like to cover a few aspects of the writer, short story as a form, as a genre, and then we will discuss at length the short story, The Tattered Blanket. Kamala Das is a very prolific writer in Indian writing in English. She's a bilingual writer. When I say that she's a bilingual writer, it means she writes in two languages, English as well as Malayalam, which is her mother tongue. Kamala Das was born in 1934 and she passed away in 2009 in a hospital in Pune. She writes in Malayalam and English, as I said earlier. Most of her writings written in Malayalam have been translated into English by the writer. She's fondly known as Madhavi Kutti, daughter of famous V.M. Menon and Balamani Amma. Balamani Amma was a renowned writer. She is known as the grandmother of Malayalam literature, who has penned over 500 short story poems. She has inherited these writing skills from her mother, and she has written short stories. She has written an autobiography, My Story, as well as penned few poems in Indian writing in English. As you can look onto the monitor, you will find two different phases of the writer. One, the young Madhavi Kutti, born into a Hindu family, Hindu Nayar family, the famous Nalapat family of Kerala. It's later on that she converted to Islam and came to be known as Kamala Surayya. Kamala Das is believed to be her pen name because the kind of writings that she wrote, she did not want her father to know that they were her writings. So she wrote in the name of Kamala Das, though in Kerala she is known as Madhavi Kutti. Kamala Das is noted for her short stories and poems. She had been a syndicated columnist, wrote stories and poems touching upon various subjects like women's emancipation, politics, and household matters. Some of her most significant poetry collections include Summer in Calcutta and The Descendants. The most well-known work of Kamala Das is her autobiography, My Story. It was considered to be very controversial, where she has mentioned and discussed about her extramarital relations with other men. Kamala Das wrote this autobiography in Malayalam, which is known as Ende Kada, and later translated it into English. She was shortlisted for the Nobel Prize in 1984, and she won the Asian Poetry Prize in 1998. So, well known as a writer in English, she wrote a number of short stories. Out of these stories, today we are going to talk about The Tattered Blanket. The Tattered Blanket was also originally written in Malayalam, and it was later translated into English as The Tattered Blanket. Tattered, The word tattered means torn or that which is in poor condition, in bad condition. Blanket means a large piece of woven material used as a covering for warmth, especially on a bed. Now, this blanket word has got a symbolic meaning. When we look into the story, we come to know that how beautifully Kamala Das has used the term blanket in a symbolic manner. The entire story is a very moving, touching, a heart-rending story about a mother who lives with her widowed daughter. The mother who's abandoned by her son, a son who's very materialistic and his professional growth is his first concern, and therefore he neglects his old mother. So it's a compelling story of a son in pursuit of professional and material progress, and in this pursuit he conveniently neglects and forgets his old mother. As the story moves, we know that it's full of pathos. Pathos has a different meaning. It means sadness, it means despair. So it's a tragic story which brings out the pain, the anguish, the distress of the old woman. The mother, who lives in a small village of Kerala, is visited by her son for the first time in 5 years while he is on an official visit to Trivandrum. There are only 3 characters in the story: the mother, the widowed daughter, and the son. The meeting of the old mother and the son, which happens exactly after 5 years, demonstrates the state of elderly persons being neglected by their own children. The old woman who is subconsciously trying to hide her agony behind her forgetfulness. She's so agonized, she's so pained by the separation that she keeps remembering her son, keeps asking about her son. Throughout the story, you will find that she, while talking to her daughter, is inquiring about her son who lives in Delhi, works for a government office, and has not met her for 5 years. The son's conscious abandonment of his mother is tinged, mingled, or you can say it's mixed or combined with the selfishness on the one hand and the lack of emotions on the other. The story ends in a very tragic manner. The ending of the story reveals the real purpose of the son's visit and highlights the message of the story. The message of the story is about the neglect that is caused to the senior citizens by their own children, and how it sends a message to the readers that one needs to empathize with the old people, with their own old parents. That's the message the writer strongly sends to the readers. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to talk about short story as a genre. Short story has got 5 elements when we look at it as a literary form. It is a shorter version of a novel. It's a prose narrative which is written in a very concise manner. The 5 elements of a short story include the character, the plot, the setting, the theme, and the conflict. Short story is a brief fictional prose narrative. Unlike a novel, a short story is concerned with a single effect, which is conveyed in one or very few significant scenes with the help of very few characters. In this story, there are just 3 characters: the mother, the daughter, and the son. As you will find that in a short story, the setting is also very limited. So there's the economy of setting. And you will find that the story is set in a small village of Kerala, and it's in the household of the mother of Gopi, the government official. It's a concise narrative. Short story is a very concise narrative, and you will not find many complex plots in a short story. There would be a couple of plots, simple plots, which will take you to the ending of the story. The character is disclosed in an action. There is no description of the character, but then it is slowly as the action moves, as the plot moves, the character is unraveled before the readers. You'll find a conflict, dramatic encounter in a story, which is not fully developed like you find in a novel form. Short story has a potential to provide a complete or satisfying treatment of its character as well as subject. This is how the story would move. A short story has got a background. So the story begins with an introduction where the settings and the characters are introduced to the readers. As the story moves forward, you will find that there's a rising action. This rising action are the events that lead to the main problem or the conflict. And as it reaches its climax, you will find that the problem has reached a high point. And then you'll find falling action. This is where the characters work to solve the problems or the conflict that arises. And towards the end, the conclusion, you will find that there's a resolution. This is how things end up in the story, where everything is revealed to the readers and the matters are resolved. As far as the Tattered blanket is concerned, it does not have a happy ending. So the problem as it is stays, but it is evident to the reader that the son does not come to meet his mother as it is believed, but he has come with a very clear intention of seeking a share of his property, which he thinks would help him survive in the materialistic world where he has to bring up his 4 children, as well as his wife is also with him. So the mounting expenses of a metro life compels him to come to his native land, not to meet his mother, but to seek for the share of his property. So that is the tragic part of the story. As we discuss the 5 elements of a short story, we rather focus on the characters. It is these 3 characters, the mother, whom the children call as Amma, they address her as Amma. That's how a mother is addressed in Kerala. The characters include 2 women and 1 man. Most of the stories by Kamala Das are female-dominated stories where female is the center point of attention. She tries to discuss the problems faced by women in this male-dominated society. So the mother and her 2 children, a widowed daughter, and Gopi, a son, who's a government official in Delhi. The daughter's name is Kamala, who's a widow. Now, when we look at the plot, though it's very few incidents or events take place here, because it's a short story, and with very few events also, you will find that the plot is fully developed and the message is easily communicated to the readers. The first part of the plot is known as the exposition, where the characters and the settings are introduced to the readers. Here, the story starts with the mother sitting in an armchair, and her widowed daughter is sitting beside her. And it is a motor car which arrives in the household. They're seated in the veranda of the house, and the motor car arrives. The mother asks the daughter to look for who is the visitor. Is there a visitor who has come? So just find out who the visitor is. And the daughter, slowly, when she looks at the stranger who's entering the compound, she realizes that's none other than Gopi, her own brother. Now, after 5 years, when she meets her brother for the first time, she's excited because the mother keeps remembering the son, keeps inquiring about the son, whether the son writes letters or not. In fact, the son doesn't write a single letter. He's too busy with in his pursuit for materialistic possessions and position in his office. He is seeking promotions, and these promotions help him to be a successful person and build a successful career for himself. He is not concerned about his mother or his widowed sister. But this is a surprise which they had not expected. So it was an unexpected arrival of Gopi to the house. But the